So, back in I would even say back in like 2014 or 2015, I started feeling the Lord saying shift inside of me. And I couldn't quite figure out, okay, well, what you mean? Like this? Like, what you talking about? And so, as the years kind of progressed, I think things started to shift inside of me where I could look at my walk and look at what I was doing for the kingdom. And I started to feel like, well, it's not quite enough. And I worked as a high school choir teacher for 5.5 years. And in the last probably 2 years or so, I started to feel like, okay, well, I'm not doing enough. And so initially, I put everything I could into teaching to try and really make it a point to do my best job, because I feel like maybe that's where I'm lacking. I'm not being a good steward of what God has given me with these kids. And I put everything in and still felt like, it's not enough. And my pastor has told me before, and he said it a million times, I think, sometimes God needs to make you restless so you can find rest. And in that season, I was completely restless. And when I finally figured out, you know what? Maybe it's because I need to make a shift. Maybe I need to actually leave teaching and go do something else. I've always had music in my heart. You know, I've been putting out music since 2010. But in 2016, about September or so, a friend of mine, a bunch of us went to the movies, and as we're leaving the theater, a group of folks like, well, I got to go home, got to get the kids, got to whatever. And one of my friends, she was like, I ain't got no kids, I ain't got no husband, I could do whatever I want to do. And I was like, you right. And then I was like, ooh, wait, she is right. And I'm that same way. And what am I doing? Am I doing what I want to do? Am I doing what God has called me to do, or am I just living? And so I started praying about it. And a couple months later, I made the decision. So in January 2017, I stepped down from teaching to pursue ministry full time. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. And I still don't fully know everything that it's going to look like. But for me, the main focus of it was, I'm no longer going to sit back and wait for life to happen to me. Because I have the freedom to do whatever I want to, I'm going to do what I believe I'm called to do. Now, the Bible says, Matthew 28, to go, therefore, and make disciples. And so if that's what I'm supposed to do in this season, and I don't have anything holding me back from that, then why wouldn't I go do it in the best way I know how, which is through music? And so that's why this album kind of came about, because I realized, okay, I want to consciously carry the weight of my salvation. I want to consciously make every move that I can possible to do more for Christ, whatever that may be. The album is called Everyday Voyage to Venus, and it is based on C.S. Lewis's book, Paralandra. So Paralandra is what the characters in the book call the planet Venus. And in the book, basically, the main character is sent on a mission from God, from Earth to Venus, to save the world. That's the smallest summary I could ever give. Read the book. It's so good. Reading is fundamental. Book, I was inspired by it, and I really felt like what C.S. Lewis was getting at was that the everyday Christian, their everyday walk, is just as important as a trip to the planet Venus. It is just as monumental, it's just as epic, and it carries just that much weight, because we have a responsibility as Christians to do something as important as the main character in Paralandra does, which is... So anyway, so the album is it's completely based on that idea that the walk of faith is monumental, but it's also completely everyday, ordinary. And I was trying to write kind of this cool, album that would really, really relate to every single part of the book, but it kind of ended up being more about my life and where I'm going as a Christian, and where my walk of faith has led me, and where it is leading me, where Jesus is leading me. And so Everyday Voyage to Venus is literally every day in my everyday, ordinary life.